that allowed them to go and meet these people, anonymously, incognito a lot of the time. So a lot of people, when you just find, they go to see one person, he was actually going to give drugs and check on the well-being of that person. Now, you see, the next name I'm going to mention is a name most sport fans would know. Irvin Johnson, aka Irvin Magic Johnson Jr. Now, he is an American businessman, former professional basketballer, right? And some would say the greatest point guard of all time, right? Now, he spent his entire career with the LA Lakers at the NBA. And then he became the poster child of AIDS because he retired in 1991 after announcing that he had contracted HIV, but returned to play one final game. Pretty good. From 1991 to today, Johnson is still alive, right? He's 65 years old. He has lived with HIV for most of his life. He was one of the first persons to publicly and vocally speak about HIV/AIDS. There's a lot of stigma in the US, particularly in the sports where he was in. Basketball, it's a lot of contact in basketball. There were myths around it, so he had to. Unfortunately, he had to diversify his portfolio. Which brings me to my conversation. You see, ladies and gentlemen, in recent years, you didn't know, or maybe you did know, but the research on HIV/AIDS has been so positive that now modern medicine has the ability to give antiretroviral drugs that will suppress your viral load to such a level, right, that you might, with basic HIV tests, turn out negative. It will not prop up. But you know that, yes, you have the virus, but you are taking the virus, you are living your life. Magic Johnson has been able to do so, to live most of his life with this virus. Now, some will say, because he was a rich basketballer, he was wealthy, he could afford the drugs. Yes, maybe so. But you see, he was the face. He came up publicly. He's been the face of this disease for years. So my question to you now that I believe some of you know about the HIV virus, do you think, as a Port Harcourt person, as a Nigerian, do you think the AIDS stigma is as bad as it was 2 decades ago, 20 years ago, back in 2004? The government carried out so many public service announcements. There were communiques. There were free checkups to that. There were condom adverts all over the place to try to encourage people to stay safe. People were scared. The Niger Delta, particularly Port Harcourt and Warri, had one of the fastest growing rates of HIV infections back then. It slowed down. I don't know what it is now. But the stigma was a very serious one, because those days when you would be diagnosed with it, say, you have the virus, it was like a death sentence. Today, however, things globally are changing. I would like to know if it has changed here in Nigeria. Do you think the stigma on AIDS is still as bad as it was 2 decades ago?
The views and opinions shared on this program do not represent the position of Nigeriainfo FM. Nigeriainfo, let's talk.
With Jude on 92.3 Nigeriainfo.
017-923-0002, 017-923-0007. At Nigeriainfo PH, at Nigeriainfo PH is where you find us on Facebook and on X, at Nigeriainfo PH, at Nigeriainfo PH is where you'll find us on Facebook and on X. Then get onto WhatsApp. The number is 0809-030-6416, 0809-030-6416. That's where you find us on Facebook, on WhatsApp and on Telegram. Remember, it's a very straightforward question I'm asking you. Do you think the stigma with HIV and AIDS, do you think it's as bad as it used to be? Or has it improved? Are people better informed? Do we not know what to do and what not to do? Alex is on the line from LMA. Alex, good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning, Jude, once again.
Good morning.
I'm always forced to join your program.
Good morning.
Part of your program. And from the topic on ground now, I think the stigmatization for over 2 decades now, as I said, has drastically reduced. Yes, it has actually reduced from the look of things. The hospitals are doing their best. I think at every private and public, facilities, health facilities I visit, there are always these advertising placards and posters that are posted along, at the reception hall and all that, trying to sensitize people from stigmatizing those who are, victims of these diseases and all that. And that has actually gotten into the hearts and minds of those who love, their fellow humans, because it must confess, the love must confess before thinking about how to talk down on people. And so if you talk down on people, you stigmatize them because they are HIV positive, they are living with the diseases and all that. People have come to know that can quickly, become a death sentence to them rather than the disease. So people are becoming more sensitized. But however, I need to be done, because when I go to the hospital,
yes,
and then I ask of, some medical outreach, e.g., maybe getting a condom from the government hospitals, the health centers, and they end up telling people that this what they call medical outreach are not available. That they are not available at the moment. I keep asking myself, why is that? How is that possible? Because I know that the World Health Organization has done a lot and is doing more of this. So if they can't get as common as the condom around the health facilities for people to get access to, how would that sound? And why will it be possible for them to get the retroviral drugs for people to use? So I believe a lot has to be done in this aspect, because if the government is giving a blind eye on this aspect, so you definitely have more spread of these diseases, people will become more victims and all that, and then people cannot get to reach out to the medical, assistance and all that, and then the medical facility will be like, a restriction. They will be restricting themselves. They will be resorting to self-medications, going for, private clinics and using some pharmacies and all that. At the last run of this whole thing, they won't get quality medical
healthcare. Yeah, that's a point. You do raise a great point, but Alex, if I let you go now, I know not a lot of people would like to admit this, but do you think, or do you know any of your friend who is living with this virus? And do you think you have done a good job in, being a friend to that person? If you do have, if you don't, no problem.
No, Jude, sincerely, from the sincere point of view, from an honest point of view, I once had a relative who got, infected before and then he died.
Oh dear.
But that was long time ago. But currently now, I can't hold on to anyone. I believe that there are people who are victims of this right now who are also hearing from us as far as the radio broadcast is concerned. And I feel this is also an important part of their what will help them to source for medical attentions and also source for medical outreach and all that.
Okay.
So I'm using this platform to advocate to them.
All right, Alex. Thank you very much. Let's quickly get on the break, please.
You are tuned in.
To the bottom of the hour where we have headline news. This one says, Ju, good morning. I don't think the HIV issue is as bad as it used to be in the early 2000s. I was in school back then. However, I do know that the stigma is still real. Do you know why? Because almost nobody you get to know of has admitted to having HIV in Nigeria. Yes, so people come when they leave this country and they can tell you they have HIV, but go around the country, even here in Port Harcourt, you will not find any public figure who has admitted to having or living with the virus. So the stigma is still very much around. The good news, though, is that the medicine is available and people can live better lives than they used to before. But as regarding the stigma, it has not gone anywhere. Nigerians are still largely judgmental when people have the HIV virus. All right, thank you very much. On my own page, as from Josh says, Jude, it is still there. The stigmatization is still there. It hasn't changed. it is still there. And his point may be valid, because now that I'm thinking about having just read this message, I'm thinking about it. Let's be honest. In the US, for example, I just gave you, Magic Johnson's story. He became literally the poster child for HIV and the fight, the push for funding research to develop medications over the years. Imagine from 1991 till today. He's still living. He's 65 years old. For over 3 decades, he's been living with this virus, and he still looks very healthy. Tall, so it's almost a 7-footer. Tall man, still full of life, still full of flesh and everything. He's poncho. He used to be a part owner of the LA Lakers. So yes, you can argue that maybe because he had the money. But the point is, how many people here in Port Harcourt, in Lagos, in Abuja, have openly on television or social media come and say, hey, my name is so and so, and I am a person living with HIV AIDS. This is our story. I know that there's a community of HIV people across Nigeria. There are platforms where they come together, because obviously they become depressed. There's a mental health condition, so they try to help each other, they support each other, both financially, emotionally, and otherwise, right? They do all these things. They have needs just like you and I. But the question is, if they were to come up and say hello to you, I am the HIV person, I'm living with the virus, what would your response be? Josh says the stigma is still there. We'll be back after the headline news.
Headline news, Nigeriainfo on
92.3.
Headline news.
Headline news, 92.3 Nigeriainfo. Former President Goodluck Jonathan says ongoing political crisis will make Governor Fubara emerge general in politics. Tony Okocha elected APC chairman in Rivers State amid legal controversy. Blame game over. Slow operations at Port Harcourt refinery as terminal manager Nupeng clash. President Tinubu says good life Nigerians lived before petrol subsidy removal was fake. Federal government introduces malaria vaccine into national routine immunization schedule. In business, Borno State Governor Zulum says only Lagos, Rivers State to benefit from tax reform bill. House of Representatives suspend debate indefinitely as northern governors mount pressure. In entertainment, singers Zlatan Peruzzi in attendance as Davido dazzles fans in Amsterdam concert. In sports, dozens killed in crash at Guinea football match. And on the foreign scene, Georgian opposition leader arrested after fourth night of protest. My name is Jude Omami with the headline news. Details will come your way during the 12 noon bulletin. Stay tuned.
Are you having problems listening to us via the Nigeriainfo app? Experiencing any bugs? Worry no more. Just click on settings and turn on the button which says always use highest available audio quality, and that's it. No more bugs. 92.3 Nigeriainfo FM, your number one talk radio station.
Nigeriainfo. Information is a source of development. Stay tuned.
We connect you to the world. We connect you to the vicinity.
We are Nigeriainfo.
Listen to me, I said this is a real situation and the government has to do something about it.
What are you trying to insinuate? All these people looting Nigeria's money? You think
This is Nigeriainfo, in the heart of Nigeria.
92.3.
We are Nigeriainfo.
This is 92.3 Nigeriainfo, the only place where talk is not cheap.
This is an infomercial.
Introducing the essence of true authenticity in fragrance was
this morning, and it has to do with HIV/AIDS. Yes, the human immunodeficiency virus, followed by the acquired immunodeficiency syndrome, was one of the worst, if not the worst, disease from last centuries. But there were actually more deadlier diseases. If I'm not mistaken, and even in the past 5 or 6 years, we've had a taste of them. Talking about the Ebola virus. From about a decade plus ago, then obviously, SARS came through, avian flu, swine flu, also came through, apparently killed a lot of people as well. And there was also, what's that fever? The one carried by the mosquito that made Zika virus. Aha, yes, the Zika virus. Yeah, so, yeah, it seems as though, interestingly, that the microorganisms are fighting against mankind one way or the other. So when we fight back, they adapt, they become resistant, they do something else, a new one comes and says, oh, we are dealing with a new disease. But from last century, I think the HIV virus, gained so much notoriety that it was, for a time, a death sentence. In fact, I know a family friend whose father gave a good part of his career in the research of this HIV virus. It was a retired hematologist from the University of Port Harcourt, talking about Professor Ejele. Spent a lot of time traveling for seminars, doing research. Okay, how can this be improved on? What are the management models? We need something to be able to handle this particular virus. Now, in recent years, there's been a huge leap. Talking about from where we were at 1990s down to the early 2000s and then 2010. 2024 right now, like I said, from what I have read, please don't hold me to this. Do your investigation. Get on Google. Ask your doctors. Let them verify what I've just said. And if there's anything that you think I have missed or I was not accurate about, please do not hesitate to call me, even live on radio, and say, hey, Jude, I just found my doctor said it is Kulikuli that helps. So whatever it is, just let me know. All right? Because we want to get to a point where we demystify the HIV virus. Just the same way I think we have demystified malaria, polio, meningitis. We need to demystify HIV and AIDS and get to the point where people can safely talk about it and then try to live as normal a life as they possibly can. Which brings me back to the question that we have at hand. Do you think that the stigma for people living with HIV and AIDS is as bad as it was 2 decades ago? That's 20 years ago, 2004. Now, I chose 2004 because from the late 90s into from 1999 into the first part of the century, that's from 2000 onwards, the government in collaboration with the WHO, in collaboration with several foundations, whether it was the MacArthur Foundation, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and several other foundations across Nigeria and indeed the globe, were doing a lot to sensitize people about HIV and AIDS. We're doing a lot in the form of research and development, R&D. They're doing a lot in distribution as well. But one of the biggest challenges for people who are living with HIV and AIDS was the stigma. Because back in those days, if your gist got out that, it be like, say, you don't get AIDS, you automatically become excommunicated. People got ridiculed. Some people even commit suicide in this country. So let's find out. Have we walked the walk? Those PSAs, those billions of naira spent to educate, to prevent, have they been successful? Ask yourself this question as I open the phone lines. And I will ask every one of you that calls us this morning, if your friend, your family member was to contract this virus, how would you treat that person?
Views and opinions shared on this program do not represent the position of Nigeriainfo FM. Nigeriainfo, let's talk.
Hello, Port Harcourt, with Jude on 92.3 Nigeriainfo.
All right, 017-923-0002, 017-923-0007. Odette, that's a drop call scenario at Nigeriainfo, PH at Nigeriainfo. PH is where you'll find us from on WhatsApp and on Telegram. All right, 009-030-6416. Now, good morning, Jude. Please, what is demystify and stigma? Philip from Aba would like to know. All right, Philip. Well, that's why we're here, to have conversations and also share information with you. So let's start with the first question that Philip asked. So what is this to demystify? All right, meaning, Philip, I hope you're still paying attention. All right, now to demystify, all right, is to make clearer and easier to understand something that has been difficult. All right. So demystify is to eliminate the mystery, the mystifying features of something. So when something is very clear, you know that there's no mystery to it. For a lot of our forebears, right? When science, came through and people were driving cars, even in the West, it was a mystery. How did they make this thing move like this? And we're not using horses. They say it's an engine. Oh my God. But now people know how engine works. So we would like to get to the point where people are not scared or uninformed about HIV and AIDS. Patrick is on the line from HA. Patrick, good morning to you.
Yes, good morning, Jude.
Good morning, please.
Yes, I commend WHO for the research they have made so far on bringing prevention measures and saying that will make HIV/AIDS to be prevented, not to transfer to another person. You know, the way it was some years ago is not the way it is now. Because the world is now sterilized. We have made research and know how to tackle it. So because we have met on research now, if you have HIV/AIDS, person cannot be afraid of you again because we know the prevention measures. So the way it was some years ago is not the way it is now. So I commend the WHO for the research made so far. That's my take this morning.
All right, so Patrick, let me ask you: if one of your neighbors, one of your close friends, comes and says, Oga Patrick, I want to tell you something. I just go hospital. They tell me say I don't get AIDS. How would you respond?
What I will do is, if we are some years back, it's when I will be afraid. Because I know that the WHO have made a research and they have told us how to handle such issues. So I will not see it as a new thing again. I will encourage him and also make sure he follows the guidelines in order to make sure he sustains his life. Because I cannot shout on him or make him to feel bad. I have to encourage him for him to also feel at home, because WHO have made a search for we to sustain on that stage. So that is it.
Okay. All right, Patrick from Eche, thank you very much. All right. Let's get this one here. It's a long one. It's from Anonymous. It says that in my experience and from my observations, people fear what they do not know or they cannot control. From my research, apart from the fact that HIV had no cure, so people actually saw some folks waste away, which is true. There's so many pictures of people just wasting away as a result of the disease. It was also known as the gay disease in the 80s in the UK and in the US. So it was like, yeah, it is God's punishment for being a homosexual and the exposure for the ones who were in the closet. These things not being able to stop or control a certain outcome, as well as the assumption that God is punishing or exposing someone for being gay, are what really caused the stigma. In Nigeria, despite the fact that the commercials often said it can be transmitted via infected needles, shaving sticks, etc., people chose to believe that anyone who had it got it through indiscriminate sexual encounters or drug abuse. And that is the underlying belief that's creating the stigma. So it is like, God don't catch him. It's not like cancer, that though sounds like a death sentence, can happen to people who are just minding their business. So there's a lot of truth in this comment. Cancer is worse. You can be minding your business and boom, they tell you have cancer of the liver. You have pancreatic cancer. You know? You have cancer of this, cancer of that, breast cancer. So many women just had, but they weren't doing anything wrong. But with AIDS, you know, like she said, it now became, people chose to see that part that, it's because you were having indiscriminate sex. You were adventurous. You were philandering. That this was God's punishment. So that's where the stigma came from. Now, the question still is valid in 2024. Is the stigma still as bad? Oh, we didn't answer that question. Our listener from Abba wanted to find out what stigma is. So let me quickly get back to the definitions. Please do indulge me. I beg your pardon. All right, let's quickly get what a stigma is for definition, and so that anyone who is listening can also fall into the program. All right. Now, stigma, meaning It is a mark of disgrace, rather, a mark of disgrace associated with a particular circumstance, quality, or person. So, if, for example, in your village, they say it is not good for somebody to have big ears. If you have big ears, you'll be stigmatized. Oh, that person may get big ears. Now, mama, when be wicked person, I can get big ears. That's a stigma. You've been marked for disgrace. So people who had, or people who have, or are living with the virus, talking about the HIV virus, very often face the stigma that is associated with this disease. You get disgraced. They assume you got the disease because you were a philanderer. You were having indiscriminate sexual encounters. You were not safe. Meanwhile, the literature says, yes, that is true, but lots of people got it, from shaving sticks, from needles. Needles are not properly treated. That's why it became a practice, in modern medicine, that as soon as the nurse or doctor is done with that particular syringe, they discard it. They throw it away to reduce the spread. But when someone has it, they just assume. So that's the stigma. Now, John Wall Google says, Jude, if a HIV victim, it's not a victim, it's a person living with HIV. All right, so if a person with HIV comes close to me to say hello, obviously, I would like to avoid any contact, like handshake or have a close body contact. This is because it's an incurable disease. John Wall Google. John, now, thank you very much for your comment. Your feelings are valid, right? Obviously, maybe the level of information that you have. So let's try and shed more light on this. All right, so the literature in front of me, right, the computer in front of me, you cannot get HIV when you touch them, when they hug you. You can't. It was a myth. All right? You can't get HIV because the person hugged you. And it's very possible that a lot of us have hugged, gone on dates with individuals who had HIV, but we did not know because they kept it to themselves. So, John, it is actually safe to shake hands with somebody, hug them. They're human like you. They just have a disease or they're living with something, which, by the way, like I said earlier on, with the advancement in modern health care, the antiretroviral drugs are not able to suppress the viral load. What that means is the HIV virus replicates in your body, just like almost any other virus that you have. They need to eat, they need to feed, they need to replicate. But these drugs are not able to suppress the amount of viruses that replicate to such a level that in some tests it not even show. And the person can live a healthy life. They take their drugs, they jump around, they can play football, they can come with me and roast boil and fish safely. All right. So Philip says you haven't explained stigma. Philip, I think I just did. I don't know if your message came through whilst I was, but yes, we just explained stigma. I don't think I have the time to go through again. Now, any serious government organization and non-government organization that are aimed at preventing HIV/AIDS should make prophylaxis such as condoms absolutely free. It should be at no cost. Ogu Ojone justice with that comment. Well, that's a debate at the national level, and that's a debate that you can also have. Maybe we'll probably have that if that's going to make sense for you. We can have discussions about that. Probably bring in some doctors, to shed light, and also those agencies that have been in the front and center in the fight against HIV and AIDS. So once again, for our listener from Aba who was asking about stigma. So once again, stigma means a mark of disgrace associated with a particular circumstance, quality, or a person. All right. So there was a time in this country when Osu was a disgrace. That's a stigma. A woman who hasn't given birth to a child at all, she's stigmatized in some areas as being barren. Oh, you don't figure you don't turn to a man. And our movies, Nollywood movies, promoted such practices. Yes, they were trying to expose them, but it became a norm. So when you mark somebody for disgrace, that is stigmatization. I do hope that helps clear it out for you and for anyone out there listening. Thank you to the messages that we received. We're on the break now. Have yourself a wonderful day. Sunny Side of Conversations comes up your way after the midday news. Good morning.